Are you thinking about moving to the Oregon coast, maybe wondering what some of the more hidden gems are? Well, we're going to talk about it in this video. All that starts now. Hey, what's up everybody? This is Clem with the Home Team Brokers coming to you from the Oregon coast. And in this video, we're going to talk about the top 5 hidden gem towns on the Oregon coast. Now, these are areas that a lot of people, when we start talking to them, people who are thinking about moving to the Oregon coast, they're just not on their radar. And a lot of people that we work with are moving in from out of state. So if you aren't local, these are definitely not going to be areas that you've had as much exposure to. We're going to talk about why these towns are hidden or less known. We're going to talk about why these towns are truly a gem. Now, if this is your first time to the channel, or you've been here and you haven't already and you want to get more videos like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the little bell to get notified every time we drop a new video. And we've helped so many people relocate to the Oregon coast, move to Oregon, and as real estate professionals, we'd love to help with that process. So if that's you, give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, or click the link down below in the description of the video and schedule a Zoom call with us. Either way, we would love to help with your move to the Oregon coast. All right, so everybody's preferences are going to be different in terms of what they're looking for, what they need day to day in a town that they might be moving to. So we're not going to talk about these in any particular order. We're just going to go north to south. And the first town that we'll talk about is actually 2 in 1. It's Oceanside and Netarts. So these are 2 really little villages that are right on the coast, directly on the coastline, due west of Tillamook. Oceanside in particular has a ton of homes up on the hill, very beautiful, very scenic. And Netarts goes down right on the Netarts Bay. And so some of the most beautiful scenery you can get on the northern Oregon coast, and really all of the Oregon coast, is in Oceanside and Netarts. Definitely one of the more unique areas, if not the most unique landscapes that you can get on all of the Oregon coast. Now, there's only about 1,000 people that live here between Oceanside and Netarts, and you're really hidden from Tillamook. So if you're in Tillamook and you look west, you just see this big hill. Back over on the other side of it, facing the ocean, are these 2 towns. Now, Tillamook itself is not a top destination for people to relocate to from out of state who are looking to move or live on the Oregon coast. Mostly because Tillamook itself is not really a beachfront or oceanfront town. It is a coastal community, but it's on the Tillamook Bay. It's this really flat kind of valley where you have 5 different rivers coming into the Tillamook Bay, and you have to go pretty far back east to see the coastal range there. So Tillamook is a beautiful area, beautiful landscape, big dairy industry there, and agriculture. Of course, you have the Tillamook Creamery, so that draws in a lot of tourism to the creamery specifically, but a lot of people aren't staying in Tillamook necessarily overnight. They might be staying in Rockaway Beach or Manzanita or somewhere further south, Pacific City, even down in Lincoln City, somewhere like that, and they're going to just drive up or drive down to the Tillamook Creamery for a day. But Oceanside and Netarts, again, really removed from these areas, and so I think a lot of people just, it's just not on their radar when they're looking at different towns to potentially move to on the Oregon coast. Now, if you live in Portland or Western Oregon, kind of the northern part of Western Oregon, in that Willamette Valley, Oceanside, Netarts, really not a big secret. A lot of people drive out there for the day, and it's no surprise. It's really no secret why people would go out there and spend some time. Really, the biggest reason why this is a gem of an area is the natural beauty. Again, it's so unique, the landscape, and the way you have houses up on the hill. There's just not a lot of areas where you can get that to the same degree. There's hiking, areas for biking, getting out, enjoying nature. You can get out on the bay, so you have the Netarts Bay right there. There's not a ton in town there necessarily, a couple of coffee shops, a couple of restaurants, a little general store, but you're really going to be going into Tillamook for most of your day-to-day groceries, maybe going to the gym, things like that. But in this area, you're only about 90 minutes from Portland, so getting to Tillamook or getting all the way out to Oceanside and Netarts, very accessible to Portland. Highway 6 connects you with Highway 26, and then you get straight into Portland. So if you're looking at frequent air travel, if you want to get into Portland from time to time, for whatever reason, you're going to be about as conveniently located in terms of proximity to Portland as you can get on the Oregon coast. So I know a lot of people do want that trade-off, that dynamic where you have peace and quiet and privacy, ocean views, get to the beach, but be able to get to the city from time to time when you need to. You're going to get all of that in Oceanside and Netarts. All right, next on the list is Pacific City. So Pacific City is a pretty big destination for tourism, for overnight or weekend stays. You have the Pelican Brewery there. There's not a ton else in town. So grocery store, a couple of restaurants, a couple of coffee shops, things like that. This is really a pretty small town overall. And it's kind of buried on the northern Oregon coast. It's about as far south as you get on the northern Oregon coast before you get into the central Oregon coast. And it's not very accessible. So from western Oregon. So if you're flying in, and driving west, or you're coming from Portland, it's a little more accessible or a little easier from Salem. It's not all that bad from Portland, but when you drive out a lot of these highways coming from western Oregon, you get to a town at the end of the highway once you hit the ocean. So for Pacific City, you have to go a little bit north or a little bit south to actually get there. So it's a little bit more off the beaten path. You have Tillamook, about 45 minutes to the north, and then you have Lincoln City, which is kind of the largest town in proximity, about 30 or 40 minutes south of Pacific City. So you do have relatively easy access to some larger towns, especially Lincoln City, but day to day, you're going to be pretty removed. And that 30, 40-minute drive one way just to get groceries is going to start to get pretty old. And again, in town, you're going to be pretty limited with what you can get overall. So I think part of that, at least, is why Pacific City doesn't pop up on a lot of people's radar, at least right out of the gate. But when people start looking at Pacific City, a lot of people really like it. And I'll tell you why it's a gem. Again, and this will be a theme with a lot of these places, the landscape and the natural beauty is incredible. You have the Nestucca Bay and the Nestucca River coming in. You have this big hillside up above town where you have a lot of homes getting built, a lot of really nice luxury real estate. You have some gated communities, so you have some nice, really private and safe communities. And then down below, in the neighborhood that's more in town and on the beach, you have really your typical little beachside, seaside town with little beach cottages, and it's very quintessential beach town in that way. So it really offers a lot for a lot of people, with what a lot of people are looking for. But the convenience, again, isn't necessarily there. So you're a little bit more removed, a little more private. So there's pros and cons to that, right? But you have Cape Kiwanda. Again, you have the Pelican Brewery, the original Pelican Brewery that's right there on the beach. You can drive on the beach there. So it's a really cool little area that definitely piques a lot of people's interest once they start looking into it a little more. All right, next on the list is Waldport. So Waldport is right on the Alsea Bay. Again, beautiful landscape, beautiful area. It's a smaller town, so it's going to be a little bit quieter, a little more laid back. And it's really overshadowed by Newport to the north, which is a much larger community, but it's only about 20 minutes north, or rather Waldport's about 20 minutes south of Newport, and then Yachats is 8 miles south of Waldport. And Yachats is another area that I think really punches above its weight. A lot of people come to us with Yachats on their list right out of the gate as an area that they're interested in considering moving to. So for whatever reason, why that may be, Waldport, again, just kind of falls down the list, or it's not necessarily a place that people had even really considered. And beyond that too, there's not really a ton of tourist attractions in Waldport. There is a grocery store, and you do have some restaurants and some things to do a little bit, but on a much smaller scale, especially then in a town like Newport, just to the north. But if you're living in Waldport, I mean, this is like a bedroom community of Newport. So you can get up into Newport pretty quickly, a lot easier than, for example, Pacific City down into Lincoln City. So what it might be lacking in some of these, in-town amenities, you can get up into Newport pretty easily and access. But again, I think that's probably why it tends to fly under the radar a little bit. But once people start looking into Waldport, people really start to see it for what it is. I mean, the housing market there, in terms of affordability and what you can get, it's much more affordable than a lot of areas on the Oregon coast. And it is private and quiet and laid back. You do have 101 going right through, so you're going to get some through traffic there in town. There is a little downtown area that you can get out and hit the shops and grab some coffee, get some food. And you also have the Alsea Bay right there too. So this big, beautiful bay with this awesome bridge going right over it. It has this, a really unique feel to it that you can get in some areas, but it's not like every area on the Oregon coast is on this big bay body of water, and it makes for more of a dynamic landscape than just being set right on the beach. You have Bayshore to the north, where you have a lot of great beach access, and these beaches are going to be more private because there's not as many people pulling off of the highway on 101 to drive into Bayshore than to get to the beach. So if you're living in Bayshore, you're getting to the beach pretty easily. Now, if you're living in town in Waldport, you can get just south, and there are beaches there that could be a little bit busier, but still you do have some great beach access. Although you are probably going to have to drive unless you are living in Bayshore to get to the beach. And again, I think it's such a benefit living in Waldport, having Newport just north of you. You have the hospital, you have grocery stores, restaurants, more to get out and do if you're looking for more entertainment. Newport is really, really close. And again, Yachats to the south, definitely not as much to offer as far as your day-to-day needs, but another really beautiful little community that everybody loves. Once people look at Yachats, it's a place that a lot of people at least consider if they're looking on the Central Oregon coast. So Waldport, definitely a hidden gem. All right, next on the list is Bandon. So Bandon is known internationally for Bandon Dunes, the golf course, or rather golf courses. There's 6 or 7 golf courses there. Some of the best golf that you can get in the country for sure, and some of the most celebrated golf in the world. I mean, this is an international golf destination. So Bandon itself is really well known. If you are in kind of the central Western Oregon, Eugene down to like Roseburg, people are going to be getting over to Bandon from these areas. So it's not as hidden necessarily, but where you have the majority of the population in Oregon, Portland down to Salem especially, I mean, Bandon is going to be at least 4 hours away. Maybe 4 to 5 hours, depending on if you're stopping for gas and everything. So it's not a super convenient destination as far as the vacation side of things for a lot of people in Oregon. So it might not get as much notoriety overall if you're doing some searching, looking at different towns that might suit your needs. It's just a little more remote, a little more removed than a lot of what you can get on the Central and Northern Oregon coast. So, air travel, amenities that a larger or more populated area might have to offer. Some of that, goes to the wayside a little bit if you are living in Bandon. And that could definitely be a reason why a lot of people don't necessarily look into Bandon, at least initially. But when people do start looking into Bandon, they really see how great Bandon is and all of the things that it has to offer. So the beaches are great there. You have this big bluff on the south side of town with, all this oceanfront real estate. The downtown area is really awesome. One of the coolest little beach town, downtown areas that you can get on the Oregon coast. You have Face Rock Creamery, so you have great ice cream and cheese. This is the cranberry capital or cranberry growing capital of Oregon. So you have some really cool industry and agriculture there that exist in the region. And it's this smaller little community, maybe 3,000 people or so, but you're just about 10, 20 minutes south of Coos Bay, which is the most populated area on the Oregon coast. So, a lot of access to healthcare, a ton of grocery stores, things to do, entertainment up there in the Coos Bay area, which is just north of Bandon, again, about 20 minutes. So super accessible to a much larger, much more populated area living in Bandon. And you can get to Eugene in a couple of hours probably. So, if you are flying, if air travel is important, for whatever it may be, work, leisure, there is an airport in Eugene that does service a lot of flights to different cities around the country, you might have to be, you might have to deal with a lot of connecting flights, like especially if you're flying internationally. But, there could be a trade-off there because of all of the great things that Bandon has to offer. All right, next and finally on this list, Gold Beach, totally a hidden gem on the Oregon coast. Now, you think Bandon is far from the Portland area. Gold Beach is going to be at least 5 hours driving from Portland. So you're not getting nearly anybody coming down from Portland, Salem, again, the more populated area of Oregon. Gold Beach is not a huge destination. Of course, there's going to be some tourism. I mean, it's going to be more like people road tripping, people in their RV, people who are driving maybe the entire coast of Oregon or West Coast, things like that. I mean, you do get people stopping in Gold Beach, but aside from that, it's really going to be a lot more laid back than what you can get in any of the other towns that we talked about on the Oregon coast in regards to tourism, maybe with the exception of Waldport. But Gold Beach overall, again, is just going to be much less accessible to other parts of Oregon. Now, you are really close to Brookings, and Brookings is a much larger town, 10, 12,000 people between Brookings and Harbor. So you can get down into Brookings really easily. It's going to be at least an hour north, though, to get up into Coos Bay, again, a much larger, more populated area. So it is more removed, more remote, more private, and perhaps that's part of the reason why it doesn't pop up on as many people's radar right out of the gate. But a lot of people who gravitate toward Brookings might not be as familiar with Gold Beach. But a lot of people who like Brookings, like the Southern Oregon coast, end up looking at Gold Beach and, really liking a lot of what it has to offer. You're only about 30 minutes or so from Brookings, so it's not all that bad. And again, once people start looking into Gold Beach, they see all of the great things that it has to offer. The area hospital is in Gold Beach for this Southern Oregon coast region, so you have maybe a little bit better access to healthcare living right in Gold Beach. You have this kind of beachfront town element, so you have in town, but you'll also have a lot of rural options and opportunities in this region as well. So you get kind of this really good mix of the type of area, type of place you would want to live, the type of lifestyle you want to have. I think you can get a pretty good range in Gold Beach for being such a small town. Another thing too is this is some of the most scenic coastline on the Oregon coast. You have the Samuel Boardman Scenic Byway, but just all up and down the coast here, really kind of from Port Orford down to Brookings, this whole Southern Oregon coast area, some of the most beautiful and most dramatic coastline that you can get in all of Oregon. So it's really incredible, especially if you don't mind getting out and going for a drive, driving down to Brookings, whatever it may be. Really beautiful area to live. And of course, you have the Jerry's jet boats that go up the Rogue River there. So there definitely is some things that you can do for fun. A lot of great outdoor activities, opportunities to get out on the water, go for a hike, go biking, whatever you might be interested in doing. So if Gold Beach is not an area that's been on your radar yet, definitely check it out. All right, so if you're thinking about moving to the Oregon coast, maybe you've been looking into some of the larger towns first. Maybe you are looking for an area that is smaller, quieter, more laid back, even a little less accessible, so you're not getting as much of the busyness from all of the tourism. If you want to talk about areas that were on this list that we talked about, or areas that are similar, give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, or click the link down below in the description of the video and schedule a Zoom call with us. And on that call, we can talk about your timeline, your budget, what your goals are, lifestyle, hobbies, all of the things that we can put together to start guiding your home search and talk about areas that are really going to suit you best. Now, if this video is helpful, make sure to hit the like button. That helps us out a lot. If you want to get more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Tap the little bell to get notified every time we drop a new video. As always, we really appreciate you watching. Until next time, we'll talk to you later.